Zilliqa has exploded to the upside by 500%. We are going to do a four-part series on how you can identify the particular pattern before it took off, before the rocket took off. And we saw the exact same pattern with Solana last year before it took off and did 1,000%. So if you like today's video, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. If you don't know me by now, my name is Jiggy. I'm the award-winning author of The Extraordinary New Venture Capital Opportunity, How to Invest Like a Pro. Been featured in the best-selling book, High Probability Trading Strategies, back in 2008, where I only used to focus on currencies, but now exclusive on crypto. So in part one, we are going to focus on pattern position. Part two, we're going to focus on price, then momentum, and then we're going to do a looking out into the future for part four. So let's dive into Zilliqa. All right, Zilliqa, first off, look at this. It's a clean chart, but look at this movement, right? There's a particular pattern, but this is also driven by news, first of all. You know, when a movement is so vertical to the upside, that is unusual and is normally with some type of incredible optimism. However, the point before, there's a textbook chart pattern that's unfolding right in front of our eyes, and I want to show you it. I want to show you it with clarity because we saw the same thing with Solana, and we did this video with Solana last year in June, July, where we saw this pattern over here forming, and then it just exploded to the upside. And we anticipated this ahead of time, and it unfolded perfectly. But this pattern over here is almost exactly the same as Zilliqa. And when you see these kind of patterns, you want to be able to pounce on them with accuracy, objectivity, and in a non-emotional fashion. So what we're going to use today is Elliott wave patterns. And if you want to learn how to do Elliott waves, you're brand new, you can actually take my Elliott wave masterclass, which is in the link below. It'll show you to a page like this. Click and you'll get video on demand. But today with Zilliqa, we're going to focus on the pattern position, and then we're going to do a four-part series. We'll break down price in terms of Fibonacci price, and then we're going to look at momentum, and then we'll look into what's Zilliqa likely to do into the near future as well. So first things first, Zilliqa did a nice movement to the upside from pretty much early 2021 to April, give or take, and then we had this big correction. So the first wave count that we're looking for, and I want to just do this as well because I'm just gonna eliminate this data over here. I'm just gonna take it back just by a week. Could we have identified Zilliqa before it took off, and what lessons can we learn? And are there other chart patterns that are in a similar position before it's taken off, and can we leverage that information ahead of time? So we're 2 steps ahead of the market rather than being 2 steps behind. So the first things first, when you're doing Elliott wave counts, markets tend to move in 5s and 3s, and you have multiple degrees of wave counts. So you have a macro wave count. So normally when there's a move up and a big move down, it's a simple wave 1 and then a wave 2. So we're going to draw those out in terms of just label the chart a wave 1, and we've had this big movement to the downside, so we can call the next one a wave 2 down here. Now, just to note, pattern by itself is not strong enough to make a decision. It gives us valuable information. Hence, we're going to do a four-part series where we're going to combine Fibonacci price and momentum as well. So we've got a macro degree count now. It's a wave 1 and wave 2. Now, what we're going to focus on now is the wave 2 in itself. Most wave 2s, so wave 2s are a corrective wave. And the actual thing that wave 2s are doing, so you know, so you can kind of prepare the thinking, wave 2s are typically a retest of the wave 1. And it tends to come down, and more often than not, is a minimum of 3 waves. And this is what you call an A, B, C zigzag correction. Very common. And if you can see it ahead of time, it can give you very valuable information. So we're going to draw this out. By the way, I'm using the software Trading View. It makes it easy for us to draw these out. An A, B, C. I want to mark it as an intermediate wave count. So now we've got our macro wave count, and now we've got our intermediate wave count. The third thing I want to cover today is knowing, and I cover this in more depth in the Elliott Wave and Fibonacci Masterclass, which is in the link below. Wave C's break down into 5 waves. So we want to look at this wave structure, and can we see any pattern unfolding? And there's 3 key Elliott Wave rules. Now you want to know with the Elliott Wave rules that I cover in the masterclass, There's an academic version where you just look at it black and white from a book perspective. But then there's the practical application in real life, and we're looking at chart patterns like this. So we've got this movement down, a correction up, a movement down, a correction up, and then a final movement down. So we're seeing a 5-wave sequence. So what I'm seeing here with Zilliqa is a nice wave 1, a wave 2, a wave 3, a wave 4, and then what looks like a wave 5 forming. And that is valuable information for us, because when you've got multiple degrees of counts, an end of a wave 5 of a C of a 2 is actually very, very significant. There's 3 key pieces of information telling us we might be coming towards the end of a trend, right? And there's the classic saying, the trend is your friend, ride it until its end, until it reaches its bend. So what we've got over here is a wave 2 of a ABC of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those of you that are used to Elliott waves, the only question that we would have had to ask is, this wave 4 slightly goes into the range by a couple of pips, like a couple of, just a little amount, and can we accept this as an acceptable wave 4? Well, crypto is a 24/7 market. It doesn't close. Like stock markets actually have a close, and then the day closes, and then they reopen in the morning, and then they close, and then they reopen in the morning. Whereas crypto and foreign exchange is a 24/7 market. And when you're in a 24/7 market, from a practical perspective, you can allow for this. You have to make business decisions when it comes to this stuff as well. So today we've covered Zilliqa on Elliott waves, and the main thing that we did was a macro wave count. So we're just in a summary here, a wave 1 and a wave 2. Then we did an intermediate wave count, A, B, C. That's the most typical correction. And again, wave 2s are a launch pad for wave 3s. Wave 2s are a retest of wave 1. And when the low has been kind of confirmed, it will normally act as a launch pad, and wave 3s tend to be quite aggressive. And then we've got this wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we've got 3 degrees of wave counts, which is very, very significant. And if you want to learn how to do Elliott wave counts, take my free Elliott Wave and Fibonacci Masterclass. Is in the link below. Focus on the Elliott Wave section. I mean, it's really the 3 key rules that you need to know. You can read the markets like a pro. You'll get instant access and straight away. So what we're going to do next in part 2, in the next video, which can be on a separate day, is Fibonacci price. How do you combine Fibonacci price? We were measuring these waves, this ABC, this wave 1, wave 2, and this 5-wave sequence. Are there particular ratios, typically from a typical buying and selling human behavior type perspective, where we can measure the psychological mood to see if there's a likely optimism going to come in? And normally there is some type of news that drives that behavior. So we know what's happened with Zilliqa, but this is the lessons on how we can prepare in advance for the next Zilliqa. And in part 4 of this 4-part series, this is part 1, we're going to cover the future. What's going to happen next? So if you like today's content, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. I'm going to finish on a quote. It is chapter 3 from Confucius. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. So today's focus has been Elliott waves, how to count Elliott waves, how to do it objectively, mechanically. In the masterclass, I cover the 3 key rules that you want to know in advance. So in part 2, we're going to dive into Fibonacci price, retracements, external retracements, and something called Fibonacci extensions, also known as alternate price projections. And it's us measuring the waves and the relationships with the waves combined with Elliott waves is a powerhouse strategy to get the edge in your favor, so you can see what's likely to happen next in the market before it actually happens. All right, I'll see you very soon in part 2, Zilliqa Fibonacci price.